What's up, everybody? It's Brian the Gamer Guy, and we are back again for the part two of the games collection. Part one is uploading as we speak, and this begins part two. It's going to be a while. There's going to be a lot of games. I'm expecting this project to take, lots of weeks. And I'm not even doing it like all crazy style. I'm not like showing you a game and then having footage of that game. If I did that, man, this would probably take a few years to get this done. Like with how I work and stuff, it would just never get done because I'd have to go get that footage and play a little bit and show y'all footage and edit all that in for like the 5 games I show for each video or more, It would be crazy. Um, this is just going to be a very simple, very easy kind of video. I'm just talking, showing, giving feedback, memories, whatever, thoughts, and then we're going. So, without further ado, let's get started. This time I have a pile, so that way it's going to go smoother. So, and I'm going to kind of time it. Like how many games does it take for me to get to 20 minutes, So I might have to do a pause if I'm not at 20 minutes and get a few more, but then I'll kind of get it down as we go through this. Okay. So, let's talk the first game on our list. And that is a very, 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 very special game to me, Xenogears. Okay, so Xenogears. Oh man. Okay, so what was I? Seventh grade when this came out? Seventh or eighth grade is the time that this game was made available to me. And at the time, it was a big thing. Because this was when we were starting to experiment with turn-based RPGs with different kinds of combat systems and stuff. So we had like, this was different because you inputted buttons for combos like a fighting game, but it was still a turn-based RPG. So there was that aspect of the combat, and then you got to do mechs. You had giant mechs like some Gundam Wing stuff, and that blew my mind. I mean, some of those aspects were just crazy, and the combat and things drew me in on that side of things. Um, for sure, because at the time we had games like Legend of Legaia that were also experimenting with that too, and that game drew me in too for its unique combat. I mean, today we don't have that's not so unique anymore. We have all kinds of crazy combat systems out today, and all kinds of good things to see that are turn based and yet add things to it. So it's not crazy anymore, but for the time it was. But more importantly, this game really made an impression on me, not just because of the combat and stuff, but it was a story driven game. And that game had dialogue, and you would just read dialogue, and it was darker. It wasn't the same kind of, you know, all fairy tales and sunshine and rainbows and stuff. It was nostalgic. It had this Gnostic message in it, agnostic kind of stuff in it, and it was very deep and philosophical and stuff. And I hadn't played anything like that at the time as far as an RPG went. Like that was pushing some boundaries and stories, and especially in the States, because back in those days we didn't get games like Megami Tensei and things because we were a much more Christianized country back then, and a lot of that stuff was just the Japanese wouldn't even try to put it over here. They're like, nah, it's not. It's going to get banned. It's going to get some of this. But Square Enix pushed it with that, and that was pushing the religious envelope a lot of ways, and it was just a good story. Was the pacing off? Yeah. I mean, the pacing was really off, and unfortunately, they didn't have the budget to do it the way they wanted to, and so the last half of the second half of the game, or maybe it was the last quarter of the game or something, was all just cutscene, fight, gone were the town explorations, the world exploration, the dungeon exploration. It was gone, for that last part, and that was unfortunate. But it still was a good game. It made a huge impression on me, and it made me really fall in love with Monolith Soft, and it's why I want to play the Xeno. That's why I played the Xenoblade games and Xenosaga when it came out and all that, because they did something special and unique with Xenogears. So that game will always kind of be in my memory. Absolutely. So, if you haven't played that, play it, emulate it, get yourself a copy, whatever you do, play it. It's worth it. Um, it's linear. It's very linear. There's not as many cool side quests and super bosses like Final Fantasy. It didn't have all that. They didn't have time to put all that stuff in, but it was still a good game, and it still made a very big impact for me. Okay, so next on the list, not as impactful, But we have Grandia, the original Grandia. Now, I loved the Game Arts games. Um, gosh, the Game Arts games are so good. The Lunar games, Grandia, they just did something really good for the time. Um, so I remember reading about this one, and I'd already played Lunar Silver Star Story by that point and loved it. Just loved it. Like, and so I was excited to get this one, and we'd heard all the stuff about it in the magazine and stuff. And so, yeah, I got my hands on it as quick as I could. And, it was a good game. I mean, I was disappointed there wasn't a world map to explore. I was very, very traditional at the time. I mean, if it didn't have a world map, I was kind of, it didn't have check all these boxes. I was definitely like, nah. I've kind of changed a lot in those aspects now, but back then, it was kind of non negotiable at the time. um, but aside from that, the game itself was good. The dungeon design was really good. They had really long dungeons, very long dungeons, and it had a cool story. It was both dark in places and yet so whimsical and full of wonder and exploration. So I mean, I really fell in love with Justin and Fina's story there. It was fun, very linear, and not so many side quests or super bosses and stuff. You basically just go from place to place, town to dungeon, town to dungeon. But it had some cool systems. The egg system was pretty cool, and how you got your spells and stuff. The combat was neat, how you could interrupt and do the break on the gauge. It introduced that kind of feature, and you've seen that in a lot of games nowadays, and it's a good feature where you see the enemy coming up, and if you can break them and stuff, you push them back down on the gauge and stuff. It's good. I mean, it worked out. It was a well received game, and we got Grandia 2 and things because of that, and the systems were even more refined. So yeah, Grandia, good memories. Okay, next on the list, Wild Arms 2. Okay, so look, I remember the first Wild Arms. I'll talk about it a little bit more too in the next video, or whenever it comes up in my pile. um, so the first Wild Arms, I found it because I was really hoping Final Fantasy VII would be out, and so I was at Best Buy looking for Final Fantasy VII, and it hadn't got shipped right away. You know what I'm saying? So it was still a day or two or three from being all the way out, and so but I ran across that game, Wild Arms, and I fell in love with it. So Wild Arms 2 is Wild Arms, but it was bigger. It was better. The pacing was better. The storytelling was better, whereas Wild Arms, it was much more town, dungeon, with a good storyline and stuff. Wild Arms 2 used some of that, but they also really did much more story elements of you'd get captured and stuck in a ship and have to break out, or then you had this big crazy chase sequence where these monsters are trying to invade Baskerville or whatever, and you had to fight them. But it still did the things that made Wild Arms fun too. It had the dungeons, it had the puzzles, within the dungeons. It had that same kind of battle system, and it had the arms and stuff. And it had the game start out with you playing each character's little mini story before they all joined up. It had all the things that made Wild Arms good. It just improved upon it and made the game bigger and better, and nothing wrong with it. I loved it. You know, it was great. I mean, it was my birthday when I got this, and I think I was like, again, eighth grade maybe, and I got this and Tactics Ogre, and I just sat there that summer because my birthday is usually at the end of the school year, and I sat there that summer playing both of those games hardcore. Very good times, very good memories. Okay, so next on our list, and yes, we're random. It's not all PlayStation games. Now we go to the GameCube Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles, the original one. Okay, this is it. All right. Now, that one I picked up because it was a multiplayer game. It was meant to be multiplayer, and that's why I wanted to pick it up, was to have something to do with my friends. And let's see, my friend Brad and I, at the time, we played it a lot. We got all the way through it. And then my friend Robin and I, she and I played it a little bit. She was a bit of a gamer. And so we played it for, halfway through and made it pretty far in and stuff. But it had fond memories because it became a social game for me, and that's why I picked that one up, was to be social and to play together and stuff. And it was fun. I mean, I remember the having to carry the cage in the mist and stuff, and one person had to carry the cage, and then you had to drop the cage and fight the monsters, and somebody had to pick it up. And that mechanic got really serious when some of these bosses would occur, because they would be doing stuff, and you'd have to be moving the cage around and dodging, and working together as a team. And it was pretty hectic and frantic, and it was great. And it had some fun level up systems, crafting systems. The game was good. Square Enix has made good games. That's why I'm probably still loyal to them, even though they're having some of their problems and their growth problems and all that, and not knowing their identity like the way they used to. I'm still loyal to them because they made good games back in the day. And a lot of these indie games and stuff that are coming out are because of Square Enix. So, yeah. Okay, so continuing on that, like down the road, I got this one, which was the second one they made. Now this one I didn't get it for dual. I didn't get it to be social. At the time, I just wanted to play it, and I never played very far into this one. It was good though. I mean, it was really good. Hold on a second. I had a cough. It was extremely good. And it had some. It took some of those systems and refined them and stuff, and it was fun. I just didn't get very far in it, so I don't have as many fond memories of it. I did play solo by myself when I got that one. Um, so that was that. Okay, now another game on the list is Eternal Darkness. Okay, now this one I picked this one up um again on sale, and like I said, and I've posted on several YouTube channels like the Gebs and all that about game collecting and all that, and how it's changed. Back in the day, that was a bargain bin game, and I got it for like 5-10 bucks, I think. Let me look. Is there a price tag, or did I peel that off? Yeah, no, never mind. I paid 30 for it, but it was it was used. And apparently I got ripped off because I paid a lot cheaper for some of those games. So apparently I did pay 30 for it. But anyway, still 30 wasn't a bad deal. And it was a cool game. I remember seeing it when they were advertising the GameCube. It was one of the ones on the thing on the commercials for the GameCube advertisement. And so I was like, "Ooh, like it." And it's a cool game. It's like survival horror meets a little bit of RPG and stuff. And so you slowly work your way through the mansion, and then you slowly uncover the secrets. And it's very H.P. Lovecraft mythology inspired, so a lot of it's very H.P. Lovecraftian. So with the elder gods and all that. But anyways, you play as I think her name was Alex, and you go deeper in, and then you see these events of the past, and you play as past characters. Some of them are her family line. One of them you play becomes a villain, and you do that, and you slowly progress through. You slowly progress through, and so you slowly progress through, and it is just fun. Now you fight monsters, you have swords and melees and stuff, and not as much guns, and there's a spell system, and there's this cool insanity system where like if you get see a monster, they jump scare you, your sanity meter goes down and stuff, and if you let that thing go down long enough, you start seeing some crazy stuff, dude. I remember being there, just seeing how bad it would get, and I would let it go down, and it'd be dark and stuff got crazy, man. It was cool. It was just such a good game. Now I do remember it getting kind of unbalanced because there's a certain kind of ruin you can find, and it's like a purple ruin or whatever, and then it's like all three of the things. There was green, red, and blue. Well, it was like the ultimate of the ruins, and so it could do all of that. You could cast a heal spell with it, and it would restore your health, your sanity. It just got too powerful, and you got to the point where you started just trouncing on him. If you took the time to find that rune, you would just start just trouncing everything just so easily. But it was a good game too for its time. Hold on a second. Okay. Sorry. Checking the time clock. Okay. So that's it for this section. Those are five more games. Very good games. I've loved them. We'll continue on with this. This has been fun. Okay. Until next time. Thank you all for watching.